Shalom, dear friends. There are three parables that focus on the theme of covenant theology in chapters 21 and 22 of the Gospel according to Matthew. They deal with the utter failure of Jewish nation and its leadership and the subsequent rejection by God. In all these three parables, we find two groups of people that are contrasted. The old Israel, who assume that they have a right and privileged position, and those who find themselves unexpectedly promoted, as in chapter 21 verse 31, those most despised given as prostitutes and tax collectors. The three parables are the parable of the two sons, the parable of the vineyard, we referred to it yesterday, and the parable of the wedding feast. The statement that we heard yesterday, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a nation that will bear fruit, is to be read as the manifesto for the total rejection of old Israel and the replacement of the new, consisting of even Gentiles. The parable of the wedding feast at the beginning of chapter 22, like two other parables that precede it, speaks of people who do not live up to the expectation and lose their privilege and to be replaced by a more obedient group of people, but rather surprising people. The guests are invited to the wedding banquet, where Jesus is likened to a groom. There is a multiple invitation. Not only that, the invited guests mistreat the messengers and even kill them. The enraged king destroyed the murderers and burned the city. The Christians read this incident as the destruction of Jerusalem that took place in 70 by Romans as a punishment on Jewish people for the murder of Jesus Christ and the Jewish people not accepting Jesus as the Messiah. The last scene highlights Matthew's ethical concern. There is a person without wedding garment. At least he should have had the courtesy to wear the wedding garment that was given gratis. This is a total disrespect and the rejection of God's grace. This is a warning to the Christian community as well. Even the Christians who do not produce good fruit will have the same fate as the Jewish people. And they will be thrown into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The next passage from verse 15, where we come across two natural enemies coming together because Jesus is the common enemy, the Pharisees and the Herodians. The Herodians are those who support Rome. Pharisees constantly opposed the Roman colonization of Palestine. Now, these two enemies are coming together, a strange team ganging up against Jesus. We already had a clue in chapter 2, when Herod called together the scribes and the chief priest, because Herod is the supporter of Rome. The high priest and the scribes are against Rome. So the question regarding the payment of tax to Rome, they expected a yes or an answer from Jesus so that they could trap Jesus in either way. If Jesus said yes, he will appear to support Rome. If he said no, it would appear to be against Rome, which would be a reason for treason, and that would even endanger Jesus. Denarius was a Roman coin to pay the tax. Roman coin carried the image of the emperor, and their possession of this coin proved that they recognized the authority of Caesar. The Roman coin carried the image of Tiberius Caesar, who was the Caesar at that time. And Jesus said, give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to God what belongs to God. In fact, these people refuse to give to God what belongs to God. So Jesus places God's sovereignty above all human authority. And the third issue is about the question regarding resurrection. Now the Pharisees and Herodians left. We have the new opponents, the Sadducees. As I mentioned earlier, Sadducees are the elite priestly class who in the 2nd century BC wielded much political and religious power. They descended from Zadok, the high priest at the time of Solomon. They are theologically opposed to Pharisees because Sadducees did not believe in the resurrection of the dead, last judgment, angels, etc. Now, they quote the issue of levirate marriage. Levir in Latin is brother-in-law. The issue is, according to the Jewish custom, according to the law of Moses, if a husband dies without giving a son, it is the responsibility of the brother of the husband to marry the widow and to raise children for his deceased brother. This is to continue the family line of that deceased brother. So the purpose is to ensure the continuity of the family. Now, by stating the possibility of the woman who married 7 husbands, they are proving the futility of the idea of resurrection. If the earthly life is to continue in heaven, she will have 7 husbands together, which is against the Mosaic law. And Jesus' argument is based on the law of Moses, which Sadducees accept as authoritative and normative. Resurrection is not a ditto return to earthly relationship, but a new reality, life with God. Resurrection involves a whole new reality. By quoting Moses, Jesus reminds us that Israel's ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they are not dead. Even though God spoke to Moses, they should have been dead. But by quoting Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, Jesus is telling that they are still alive and their reality is heavenly. May the peace of God be with you.